America, the land of the free, where people live the American dream. For some, the dream is easy living, but for others, a long, hard road filled with sacrifice, migration, and hard work in order to put food on the table. The Great Depression struck the U.S. in 1929 and lasted until the early 1940s. Millions of people all across America experienced the most dreadful economic downfall in American history. Many Mexican-American families look to migrating north in order to find field work. These are the accounts of two sisters and their experiences growing up as Mexican-American migrant workers.
When we started working on the field, going so early, we used to pick cherries, cucumbers, onions, blueberries. We would go from one town to another one. Sometimes from one state to another state. And we were just moving around.
We'd sleep on the sides of the beaches at night when we're traveling. My dad would put blankets and we'd sleep there. And people would walk at night, men would walk by, but they never bothered us. Sometimes we didn't, he would run out of money for food. There would be some woods. There's a lot of woods in Michigan. We would drive into the woods, build a little fire, and cook some potatoes on that fire.
Apart from making a long, tiresome trip, distance was not the only obstacle they faced. It was common for migrant workers to encounter segregation, discrimination, and racism when traveling up north in the United States.
My dad would stop there. He would go to town and he could go into the restaurant. They would let him in because he had blue eyes and was white, little. But his friends wouldn't. When they went by, he made I don't know. Well, because he could say beer, he could say a few English words, So he just asked for beer and that was it. We would let him in and then his friends would look, but they didn't let him go in. But they did let my dad because he was wet.
And if they went in, wait for them to get out. Or they go sit down somewhere to eat and they wouldn't even serve them. They wouldn't even go to them to order. Because we were Mexicans. My mother was dark, so we stayed in the car.
Living was not easy, especially with the extreme working conditions imposed on them by American farmers.
When we got to where we were going, we already had my dad always had the same farmers where we would go, and they would put us in chicken coops. They threw the chickens out and put us in there. When they knew that we were going, they threw the chicken and made us mattresses full of hay, so we could sleep in there. And cots made out of wood. I mean, not cots, beds made out of just wood.
I don't know how my mom and dad did it, but we all slept in the same, always in the same places. When I was growing up, I remember I didn't have any shoes. And when I would go with my grandmother, my parents weren't going yet to Michigan. And I would come, and the first thing I did, I ran inside. And my little brothers and sisters, they were laying down because they were younger than I was. Some of them were little. And I would look under the bed because I wanted to see if they had shoes. And I'd pick up and before I said anything, I went and picked up the bedspreads and look under the bed, see if my little brothers had shoes.
When my mom started bringing us in the morning tacos, we go to work. with a cup of coffee in our stomach, and that was it. And they would take us the tacos later on, about 10, 11. My mom would get there with the tacos. Oh, those tacos were so good. When it was, especially when it was cold. Those tacos were the best food you could ever eat.
We work hard.
And we did it bending down. Most of the time I used a small hoe.
They didn't let us use those long poles. We had to use the little short one.
And then they started using the long ones. And I never wanted a long one.
Oh, yeah.
Because I wanted a little one because I would go faster with a little one. So they gave me a little one. And there I go.
We used to pick cherries too in this little place. It was like an island. We had to climb, we climb on the ladders and put a bucket here and pick the cherries and put them in the bucket. Cherries and put them in the, every time you fill a bucket, you went down and put it where it was supposed to be put. And then we'd go up again and pick more cherries and fill the bucket. And
Getting an education was not always an option when usually the entire family had to work the fields. If you were old enough to go to school, you were old enough to work.
I didn't even finish elementary because I wanted to work.
I just got to the 9th grade.
But that was
And
something.
my habit that I had was reading. And my dad said, would tell me, we used to go to Michigan, I would buy books. My dad would tell me, why are you always reading? You're always reading. Get up from there and do something, don't be reading. He would get mad because of that. But that's my thing, reading.
And when my brothers were very little, very young, there was inspectors going to the fields. The law started. Inspector, my dad was so mad. They took us out of school. I remember Dad taking me out of school, and then they just let you go. They didn't worry about you going to school or not. They didn't. Teachers didn't complain, or he went and got us out of school. And and we were so happy because we didn't have to go to school no more.
These migrant women are just two of millions like them who are still living today and would not be here if they did not go through exploitation, hard work, discrimination, as well as being deprived of an education. It seems as though stories like these always slip through the cracks of American history and are left untold. Mexican-American migrant workers were not considered Mexican enough or were not considered American enough. In the words of Edward James Olmos from the movie Selena, you have to know about Oprah and Cristina. Let's consider them today as a part of our cultural history.
The world